Hey, what's going on everybody, and welcome to another video here with myself, Justin, and Whatnot Entertainment. So we just did a video on a review of these uplights by Both Lighting, and I had talked in that video briefly about an issue that I had with one of my uplights, and it was with the DMX not working anymore. So what I want to go over on this video is how to do the repair on these uplights. Now, this repair job is for the S4 model, which is what I have, and the S6. Now, the S4 and the S6 are pretty much the same light. The only difference is the S4 has the 4 LED diodes and the S6 has 6 LED diodes. So with this one, now if you go to bothlightingusa.com, you know they have PDF guides in there on how to do the replacement. Now this video is being made because there actually isn't any videos that I have seen on doing an actual repair to these lights. So, you know, what I have is I have the instruction manual for the light. They also have the PDF guide to replace the DMX board, which is this, just a little itty bitty board. It also has a video on how to replace your power board. Set this one off to the side. And this is your power board. It's got the PDF guide on how to replace your main board. Which is this one right here. This also has your screen on it as well. And it also has a guide on how to replace your battery as well, which is this big boy right here. Now, the common tools that are used between all four of these repairs is a small and a large Phillips head screwdriver, a flathead screwdriver, and a magnetic rod, because this is a small area and it is a tight squeeze. So, however, you know, I have a variety of tools that I use, which a couple of these tools you will see why I use them as I'm doing this repair. So I have the regular Phillips head number 2. You got your regular size flathead. Now I have another number 2 right here, but this is my ratcheting screwdriver, and it's got a very strong magnet, and I prefer to use this one. I also have a pair of needle nose pliers. I have a small number 1 Phillips head screwdriver. And I also have this little screwdriver right here. This has the 3.5 Phillips head on it, and I got this one because this bends. And to get to the DMX board, this actually seems to be the tool that works the best because it does bend on the inside. A lot easier than one of these bigger ones do. I also have the small flathead screwdriver. I have a razor blade, which this one you will see why I have this razor blade when I get into doing this light. And I also have a 2.5 millimeter Allen key. Now, the reason for this Allen key is you have to get to the inside of this device from the very bottom right here. What I found was best is to remove this shield, which is held in by Allen screws. This way you can flip it upside down and lay it flat while you're getting to the screws underneath of it. So we will go ahead and remove these right now. Just got to loosen them up real quick, and then I'll flip this around to get to these ones back here. And there's 4 of them that hold this piece of the unit on here. And I will also use this as a quick demonstration for what I said in the last video on how you actually receive these units when they are shipped to you. So when you originally get the units, this is how they're put in with the shield facing this side. So this side right here with your screen and your flashing DMX light are always visible to everybody and very annoying. So very easy to unscrew this, turn it around, tighten everything back down. But we're just going to go ahead and set this piece off to the side for right now because it's not needed. Now with this, what we need to do is we have 2 Phillips head screws right here, and we have 2 of them down here in the bottom as well by your power con connectors. Now these screws are different size or different lengths, so you do want to remember where those screws go. The ones that are down here by your power con are longer than the ones that are up here towards your screen side. So I'm going to go ahead and grab my Phillips head screwdriver, and we're going to go ahead and remove these screws. These are short. And when I set them down on the table, I like to set them down for where they actually go. That way, when I go to put this back together, I'll know where they go. Yep, and this one is not wanting to come out of here. And it is a little hard to see down in here because it is kind of dark. But this is what I was talking about with the length of this one and the length of this one, how they are two different lengths. So that's why you want to be very careful on where they go back in there. And it's also the same on the inside of the unit as well, that you want to be careful on where they go. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and set some tools off to the side. Now, when you go to, after you remove your 4 screws, when you go to remove this piece, you want to be very careful with it because you do have a board on the inside, and you kind of want to angle it away from that board that's inside of there. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and set this down just like this. That way we can take everything apart and show you where everything goes. Now, with this, we're going to want to take our little flathead screwdriver, and right here you'll see that there are 2 little screws inside of here and 3 little screws up here. You're going to need to loosen those up to remove these wires. And you're going to want to make sure that if you don't remember exactly where those wires go, you want to have your PDF guides, or you can bring them up on the website as well. And that website will be linked down in the description below. That way you can see where those wires go. So I'm going to go ahead and loosen these up so I can remove the wires. And this right here is for the power board. Now, these screws do not actually come out of here. They just loosen up, so you don't have to worry about losing them. And one thing that you do want to do as well is right here. This is your power cable going up to your battery. You do want to disconnect that so you don't short anything out. Okay. Now, with that being said, with this on your power board, you have 4 Phillips head screws. One here, one here, one here, and one here. You'll want to remove these screws. And if you're doing the replacement of every board in the unit like I'm doing right now, you want to set these off to the side so you know which group goes with which item or with which board. Which, because I have the boards laid out in front of me, I'm just going to put these screws right in front of those boards so I know which one goes where. Okay. Now, what you'll want to do at that point in time is just pick your board up and set it off to the side. Now, you also have a piece of plastic underneath there. This is just a protective piece of plastic. Don't lose this because you do want to reuse it. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to set this stuff off to the side because we're going to continue tearing everything apart in this since all units are going to be, since all the boards are going to be replaced. Now, when it comes to doing your main motherboard inside of here, which is this board right here, you got 2 Phillips head screws that are holding it in place. You'll want to remove those and slide this piece out. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. And those screws are in there kind of tight. So I'm going to go ahead and use this screwdriver since I have the flex attachment on it to get in there and remove those screws. And there's only 2 of them holding this unit in there. And then you'll just grab the unit gently and you'll pull the unit out. Now, what I said on, I was going to explain why I have the razor blade. The reason for having the razor blade is because if we look at the connections, let me bring this close to the camera. If we look at the connections, it has glue on them. So, and that's to hold the connectors in place. So what I like to do is I like to just take the knife, go along the edge of those connectors, and cut that glue. And there is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 connectors on here that you have to cut the glue on, and be very careful, obviously, not to cut the wires or cut yourself. And I just like to go over the glue a couple of times just to make sure that the glue is cut. All right, after you have that cut, just get in there and then separate the power connectors from the board. And sometimes I do like to use a screwdriver as a little wedge, especially because this one, it actually did not cut the glue all the way. So this, I'm going to use my needle nose and just basically grab the glue and peel the glue off. Which this connector, I'm going to have to peel the glue off of here as well. There we go. Let me just go ahead and peel the rest of this glue off of here with the needle nose real quick. And my finger to get that off there. Okay, and then you also have this little itty bitty little black wire right here that just easily pops off. And then we'll set the bad board off to the side. Now, the bottom of the unit can be separated and set off to the side while we get into the inside of here. Now, inside the unit, you have a big battery. You have two screws that are holding it in. You got one on the top right here, and then you have another one down in here. So you just want to get in there. Remove the screws. Now this one up here by the back of the unit, with the way I have it set up, I have to use a regular screwdriver to get in there because it is a tight space. And then after that, obviously make sure you have the screws pulled all the way out. You have your bracket that holds the battery in place. And then you just pull your bad battery out and set it off to the side. Now, down inside of here, that little board right there is your DMX board. That also has two Phillips head screws holding it in place, which is why I have this screwdriver that flexes, so I can get in here a lot easier and remove those two screws. And they're just little itty bitty screws, so you want to be careful with those not to lose them. All right. Oop. And then just grab the board, move it forward. It's got a wire connector on it. This one does not have any glue on it. So you just want to get in there with your hand, pull the plug off, and then you also have this little black wire right here as well that you'll want to remove. Set your bad board off to the side. Now, to put everything back together, obviously it's just a reverse of how you take it apart. So the first piece that we're going to do is our DMX board. You want to take your black wire, which hooks onto this little piece right on this end, the opposite end of where your light is at. There's a little piece that you want to clip that little black wire into. Make sure it's seated properly. And then your wire that goes onto the DMX board has all black wires on it. You'll just slide that in there and snap it in place. And then you'll want to start putting everything back together in here. Okay. Which the DMX board, I will say, is the hardest part to do on this uplight because it is a very tight space that you have to get into. And you do have some wires inside of there that you do need to move around while you're sliding the board back into place. And then you'll want to set it to where your light and your button are outside the unit. And then you'll want to grab your 2 screws and you'll put them back in there. Oop. Actually, let me turn this just a little bit so I can see in there a little bit better. In this, I'm actually going to do this part by hand. Just to get it started, and then I'll put the bit back on the screwdriver right there just to tighten it down. And obviously you do want to be careful how tight you put these screws because they are going onto a circuit board, and it is not that hard to crack these boards. Okay. And just give it just a little snug. And that's it. All right. Now, what we're going to want to do next is we want to put our new battery back inside of the unit. So we'll just set the battery down in there. And it is a tight fit with the battery. Kind of move your wire out of the way. And then slide your bracket back in there. And you'll want to line up your holes with where the screws go. Okay, and then you'll want to tighten that down. Then you'll want to take your other screw and put it in there as well. Okay, so now the battery is back in place. So what we're going to do next is we're going to take our main board. Now your new board does come with the plastic protector over top of the screen. You'll want to remove that. And then you'll want to hook your wires back up to it. You got the wire goes here, the big connector. You have your 4-pin here, your 3-pin. You also have another 3-pin over here, a 2-pin, and your black wire right here. Now, this is where you do want to take a look at the PDF guide if you don't remember exactly where the wires go, because it does have an image on here exactly where those wires go in case you do forget, because you do need to have the wires in the correct spot. So what we're going to do is we're going to put the big wire connector back in here. And then we're going to take our 4-wire connector, slide it back in. And then we're going to take our 3-wire connector, slide that back in. Now the nice thing is, and I will show you this on the other board, is these are labeled for DMX, for your DMX wires that go here. And then obviously the big one is your power. So it does have labeling on there, which is nice. Now, after getting those on there, you'll just want to slide that out of the way, and you'll want to bring your your bottom back over, because this is where you have your 3-wire connectors here that will connect to this board. So you'll want to reconnect all these where they go. Which I guess I do need to pull this up to clip that in there. Your power from your bottom goes here. Your 3-wire from the bottom goes here. And then this little black wire goes on this connector right here. And you'll want to make sure that is all seated correctly. Okay, and then after you get that seated in there, you'll want to slide your board back into it, and you'll want to make sure that when it goes in there, which I'll show you here in just a moment after I get these screwed down, but you have your 4 buttons for your menu. You want to make sure those go through the holes and seat correctly. So I'm going to go ahead and take the 2 screws, and I'm going to go ahead and seat those back in there. Oop. And obviously this bit is not very magnetic. But you'll want to seat both of them back in place. And of course, pick it up and make sure that your buttons are in the right place and your LED screen is in the right place. That makes sure that you got good alignment on it. And I'll put the bit back on the flexible screwdriver, and I'll just give them a little bit of a turn just to snug them into place. Okay, now after that, we're going to take our piece of plastic, and on the bottom you have these 4 basically big nuts that the board screws into. You'll want to set your plastic on top of those. Make sure you remove wires out of the way. And then you want to take your new board and you want to set it in there the way that's supposed to go in. So you have your green connector that's got your 2 slots on it, and you have your other green connector that has the 3 slots. Now, your 2 slots need to face the main body of the uplight when you're putting them in, because you have just your red and your black wire that goes up here. And then on this side, you have your black, your yellow, and your red. So you just want to make sure that you face the power board the correct direction. Okay, and then we'll just take our screwdriver, we'll grab the screws. And we'll put this back together. And make sure that you do not over tighten them, because like I said before, you could very easily crack the board. Now, part of the problem right here that I'm having is that plastic is actually not lined up with the holes being where they need to be. So I'm just going to get in here and kind of move the unit around a little bit to get those lined up so I can put these screws back in place. Oop, and that one is not wanting to go in there. So with that, I'm just going to take my razor blade. I'm just going to get in there and basically make that hole a little bit bigger, so I can go ahead and get this screw going in there. And I'm actually going to use this because it's got a really good magnet. Okay, now all those are back in place. Now you have, like I said, you have the green or the black and the red, which there is 2 wires each. So you want to make sure that you get both those wires seated in their places correctly. And obviously going to have to tighten up or loosen up these screws to get them slid in there. And then you'll slide those in, hold them in place while you tighten down these screws to lock them in there. And then just kind of give them a little tug and everything just to make sure they seat in the right spot. Now, the one thing that you do want to watch out for is obviously your 3 wires up here. You want to make sure they go in the right place, which there is a picture of it. You know, Your yellow goes in the middle, your black goes towards the blue power con, and your red goes towards the gray power con. So that's just what you want to make sure of, that you have them in the right place. Now these, I'm just going to put the wires in individually, then tighten them down. Give it a little snug. Take the next one. Put it in place, give it a little snug. Take the final wire, put it in place. Tighten it down. Give it a little snug. So now that we have everything put back together, we can go ahead, reconnect our battery. And then we can go ahead and start putting this back together. And like I said, this is where you want to be careful of your two different screws. Make sure you put them back in the right spot. Tighten them down. And there we go. And then the only thing we have to do now is put our top back on. All right, and then after that, just flip your switch on the bottom. And I'll just go to show mode real quick. It's doing the fade. So this is put back together. Now this only takes me about 15-20 minutes to replace all these boards. Obviously, you know, it took a little bit longer because doing the how-to video on this. So I hope this does help out with anybody that owns the S4 or the S6, or if you're thinking about purchasing either of these two units. You know, it's pretty easy to do. You can replace the boards yourself and the battery and still have your warranty on the units. Obviously, if you are unsure about replacing the boards or replacing the battery, you can send it into Both Lighting USA, and they'll do the repairs for you. And once again, the link for Both Lighting USA will be linked down below in the description. And I want to thank everybody for taking the time to check out this video. If you have any questions about this, please leave a comment below. I will personally respond to your comment. Also, make sure you like this video to help with the algorithm. Hit the subscribe button for future videos that are going to be coming out, because we have another set of videos coming out on both lighting equipment. And make sure you hit that bell icon so you can get notified of all the next videos that are coming up. So thank you everybody once again for taking the time to watch this video, and hope you guys have a great one.